As Halloween approaches and the veil between the worlds get thin, we can't help but feel something. That chill that's not quite fear, more like anticipation. What if this time of year isn't about being scared of ghosts or witches, but about reconnecting with our own magic? The veil doesn't just separate us from spirits, it's the energetic boundary between the seen and the unseen, the physical and the spiritual. And when it thins, we all have greater access to guidance, synchronicity, intuition, and even messages from the other side. So this week, we've gathered our own Seeking Center Coven, intuitive astrologer Stevie Calista, quantum healing guide Lizzi Cutler, tarot therapist Michelle Nolan, and spiritual medium Lisa Nitzkin to demystify the magic, explore the symbology, and help us understand how to use this energy for good. Think of this as your invitation to dance between the worlds. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
And I think since this is so many people and our coven together, it would be great if each of you could say hi and who you are so people can get adjusted to your voice for a second. So start with Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Nitzkin. I am a spiritual medium and intuitive counselor, and I connect into your deceased loved ones, angels, and guides and provide validating information that they are still with you and that they have never left.
Thank you. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Nolan. I'm a tarot therapist and I do psycho-spiritual work to help people be on their proper soul path and remove blocks along the way.
Lizzie.
Hi, I'm Lizzi Cutler. I am an intuitive as well, and I help people change their relationship with stress and anxiety.
Stevie.
I'm Stevie Calista, and I'm an intuitive astrologer that helps people understand their soul's blueprint and how to become more in alignment with it.
And of course, my co-host, Karen.
Hi, I think everybody knows my voice by now, but hello everyone, and I am here to support all of you and ask questions that our listeners will want to ask.
Always. And I think that first one that we want to start to talk about is when we talk about the veil, what do we mean? Can we define that in our own words and why it gets thinner at this time of year?
Stevie.
So, the reason why we say the veil thins so much is because we are heading into more darkness at this time of year. And when we hit Samhain, which is Halloween, we hit the halfway point between the equinox and the winter solstice. And so we literally are being asked to surrender into our own darkness. And that's really what Scorpio season offers us, is this chance to go down into our caves, look at all the shadowy bits that we haven't been paying any attention to, and really face our darkness. And so traditionally, this is when the ancestors are louder because the veil of energy, meaning the gate between the physical and non-physical world, is thinner. And so our ancestors have an easier time communicating with us, and we also have an easier time listening to our intuition.
Michelle, you need to jump in on this.
Besides it just having the pop culture of Halloween, which I love, for me, I think it's because tarot to me is more shadow work than anything else. I feel with that Scorpio energy that's obviously apparent during October, is in Halloween specifically, is that's a time for us to really be able to unearth things maybe that we haven't been able to have the time to, or we just haven't had the access to the energy to do it. And it just removes a little bit of that blockage so that you can really dive in there and get to see that unconscious side of you, what in tarot would be called the moon energy.
Lisa, do you find that as you're doing readings and you are communicating with the other side that it does feel different at this time of year?
I really believe that lately I'm feeling the veil between heaven and earth being thinner and thinner by the moment. And I am finding that the energy feels more intense. The sessions feel a little bit deeper, quite frankly, in terms of there's a lot of messages giving advice about how to work on the shadow side of my client. I've been finding that a lot lately and working on some things that are related to inner trauma, childhood trauma. And there's also a lot of healing that goes on with that when the spirit is mentioning maybe a relationship that was complicated. And I've had a lot of those lately.
Yeah. Lizzie, what about you in terms of your work, both intuitive and energetic?
This is always the work that I'm in, is what blocks our subconscious and uncovering those. So I don't know that it's more pronounced now, but I'm certainly always happy to dive into it. And I think of the veil as like the little sheath between higher self and present 3D self, is the way I see it.
I was going to ask about that because I think for those who may not know that term, the veil, you could actually picture we in the Catholic Church wear over our head this like lace. Is the veil really just that little energetic difference between us here on earth, like you were saying, Lizzie, that 3D, and then those of our ancestors on the other side? And would you define it that simply? It's just a very energetic frequency
I think
difference.
every school, every person, everyone sees it and feels it differently. And it's about defining it for yourself of what that feels like.
I found when I am talking to the deceased that they often relate it to the veil between heaven and earth being as thin as a piece of paper. And that's my feeling whenever I'm diving in. It's so close, and that it usually just takes a thought to cross the veil between heaven and earth in my experience.
And as you were just saying, Lizzie, too, about like how for every person that's different, it could be even as simple as seeing signs. I was just thinking about today, my cousin was sending me all of these signs that she's getting, and it feels more intense. And it is right now in this time frame. And to her, that's the veil. She's not necessarily hearing anything or seeing anything in her mind's eye, but just even seeing those signs is, to me, an indicator of that veil for her. Does that make sense? And so for some people, that might be more relatable than maybe where we all are on our journeys and being able to communicate with the unseen.
Yes.
Also in tarot, Scorpio season is referenced by the death card, which that particular energy, I think if we're just talking about our 3D experience, that is very indicative of doing that cycle of transforming and going through this kind of go deep, transform, dive down. What do we need to get rid of? And then rebirth from that. So I think that part of the 3D experience of the veil is more of that we are in tune with that cycle.
Are we in Scorpio season?
October 23rd, officially. But there are planets already in Scorpio. So yes.
When we post this, it'll be October 21st.
Right around this time, there's planets in Scorpio before and after.
I also wanted to bring up this idea of the fact that fear, which I don't know about you guys, but I have been noticing, whether it's on social media or you're watching some streaming platform, there are obviously more than usual a lot of promos for scary movies or horror movies right now. It's that season because of Halloween. And that's not what I want to talk about, but what it does bring up for me is just fear overall. And that fear can be this doorway for deeper awareness and your spiritual journey. And I'm just curious how you all find that in terms of people being in fear when they come to you for all different reasons, and how can that open them up to becoming more aware and ultimately more connected to who they really are.
I think, especially with what I do, is the awareness of where your fear is where the healing starts. So where that trigger is where you should pay attention to. So that is an indicator of what needs to either be changed or removed, or I think fundamentally first accepted. So I think it's a really good catalyst for that transformation.
It's exactly what all of my work is about with clients, is looking at where the fear is and then figuring out where you learned to be afraid of it, how it's impacting you now, so that you can move forward. Because I think ultimately we're like on this journey to get to a place of self-love and unconditional love and all the ooey gooey things. So like, to me, looking at fears where my highest self is saying, hey, Toots, look over here.
Yeah. And then I think there's just the fear of the mystical. So taking it a step further,
Yeah.
Like when I was thinking about this episode that we're taping right now, I was thinking about the first time that I really experienced a spiritual medium. And I was excited, but I was also nervous. And there was a little bit of fear, and I was going to a large group reading. And I remember when that medium did a short meditation, inviting everyone in and getting everybody grounded, I was like shaking. I can remember that first time, and I could feel the energy that came into that room. And then being a part of that reading, it was magical. So it was like this fear, but then once we were in it, there was flow and there was alignment. And then I left there, honestly, a different person.
I think with everybody on this podcast right now, I've had that same trepidation every time I go into a reading because you're calling forth information from obviously your highest self, from your angels and guides, a place where you might be afraid of what might come forward. And you're relying on people that you hope that you can trust to bring trusted information for you, but you're never really sure what you're going to get. And I feel like every one of you probably have that experience with your client when they first show up and they're waiting for their reading. They might have that trepidation of what they're going to hear. How do you address that with them and help them feel less afraid of the information that you're going to give them?
I feel like with my sessions, fear is usually, mystically speaking, it's they don't understand. So if I help them understand what I'm doing and how the process works for me, and that I'm not going to tell them they're going to die, or although there is like themes in the chart when these things happen, you can usually find it. I don't see the future. This is not all what this is about. And so I think the understanding of what the process is and how it works is very beneficial to give them an overview. It helps them like calm their nerves. And I also think this work is so sacred that it's really important for us to have integrity or care a lot about how we give information to our clients, because people really run with it.
Yes, they hang on to every word.
I could piggyback off of that too. That's exactly what I do when someone comes to me. I make sure that I explain exactly who I am and what's going to take place, even if they've already had a reading with another medium or another energy healer, another tarot reader, just because we all do this a little differently. And I really am big on the same thing to make sure that they feel safe. I always say that we can talk about anything and everything under the sun, and I'm holding that space of light for the individual. And that does tend to help the situation, as well as really letting the client know that the intention is always for their highest good, and making sure that they always feel that knowing and that truth, which is really what I put into my intentions for each reading, is to bring in information for their highest good. So that always seems to help with turning the temperature down on their fear a little bit. And I always believe that as the person who is facilitating the reading feels comfortable in that space, it's just as important as the messages given.
I think a lot of our fears too come from places we don't even understand why they're there. I mean, it's, oh, you had a past life where this happened to you. And so the understanding of where it even comes from is so helpful for my clients.
Yeah, and for mine, they're getting ready to talk to someone they haven't spoken to in a while. And the fear, even just around that, the anticipation and the anticipatory anxiety that comes with that can be overwhelming too.
Yeah, I would think for all of you, I know you all explain what you do before you get going, but people, most of them, it will be their first time having whatever reading it is, and they don't know what to expect. And it's like they'll have seen things in movies or shows or something like that. And there is that aspect of not knowing what to expect, in addition to what actually may come through. So that there's all of that, and it's having to help them overcome it.
I think for a lot of people, it's the differentiation of understanding between nervous and excited. And I think those two blend together a lot. And I think most people are excited, and maybe not for Lisa's. This might be a little different because I think there's like apprehension and different things talking to a loved one who's passed. But for me, if I'm going to clear something or I'm doing an intuitive download or a past life, it's more of, I hope something cool comes through. I hope I do this right. It's not necessarily, from my experience, I haven't heard people say they're afraid of what info will come through.
You can also flip it too, right? Like we wear a lot of veils, right? We wear a lot of masks. And I think in these situations with anyone that is intuitively gifted and doing what we're all doing, is we're seeing right through that. And that's very vulnerable for a lot of people.
So true.
I was literally just going to say that. I think that there's that fear like, oh my gosh, are they going to realize that? They're going to know that about me? Are they going to see that thing that I'm trying to put the mask around, just like you said? I think is true of a lot of us, that we're all hiding a lot of things and we want really positive information to come out of these readings. But I think we also respect the power and the wisdom that you guys can tap into. And there's that fear that there's going to be this nakedness of who we really are at a soul level that you're going to see and that we're going to have to acknowledge.
So true. What are some of the most common misconceptions with what you each do that you'd like to clear up?
It's actually very funny as someone who's like out in the dating world is that people think that I'm constantly reading people all 24/7 every time I'm out and about. And let me be clear, I am not.
Yeah, I think that is huge. People think that of me, and I'm not any of you, and they think that I'm doing that.
Lizzie, can you see that the energy is clinging to my body and that this evil spirit is sticking to me? Can you see that on me when you look at me?
Are you asking me that for real?
Do people ask you that? Do people feel like that you
No.
can actually see that? Oh, really?
Oh, no.
I think people think that you can.
If I go in a session, I can see where things are. In my third eye, I am seeing it.
But your point is there's a very specific time and space and intention for
If
that.
I'm at a bar or a concert, no offense, I don't really care what they want.
Agree.
That's funny. Or I have the bandwidth. That's a lot of energy to absorb.
Michelle, can you talk about some misconceptions with tarot and a few of the cards?
Tarot, I think, has maybe just like mediumship has this pop culture around it, right? I think the first thing is people think I'm predicting something in their future to happen. And that's not what I do. And I've always said, like, every reader is different. Whatever their gift is, that's not what I use tarot for. So I think it's more of an awareness tool and an intuitive tool. But I think that's a big one. Don't tell me when I'm going to die, or don't tell me that I'm going to get sick, or I'm going to get in a car accident. You're going to see that in the cards. That's a very, I think, tarot driven thing. But then tarot is witchy. So there's also a connotation around that, the occult. And there's certain cards like the Death card, or the Tower card, or the Ten of Swords that has really intense energy. And the Tower, really intense energy. And the visuals are intense usually too. So some people misconstrue that as being negative, but I always have to repeat with people and try to teach them that we're looking at the contrast of energies in that whole archetype.
And that in most cases, no bad. It's all actually for your highest good, as Lisa was saying before. This is all for your journey, part of why you're here. Lisa, what about you?
Yeah, I, like Lizzie, I have clients that are constantly asking me if I'm walking around reading everybody all day long. And also, too, if I'm being bombarded by spirits all day long. And I make it really clear that when I first started doing this work, I did feel like I didn't know how to control it. And I did feel very open. And because I was so open, I would get sometimes sick because the energy was just constantly on me. And now I have really good boundaries. And like anything, you don't always want to walk around doing your work all day long, even if this is out of the box kind of work. So people do think that I'm just constantly juggling ghosts.
Yeah, talking to ghosts. Yeah. Speaking of ghosts and misconceptions, and I still want to get to Stevie about some misconceptions with astrology, but what would you say about ghosts and what they really represent or are?
I think we get the term ghosts from the movies and from media. And in reality, to me, they're energy. We're spirits and we're a soul. So I think that the movies and the media have maybe put a fearful connotation on the word ghost, that you're being haunted and that you're being terrorized. And I don't work with those kinds of energies that are dark and scary. I've never, ever experienced that in the 20 years I've been doing this. It's all energy of light and love and healing. And I think there's a big misconception, and I think there's a big negative connotation on the word ghost, because that's what we've been programmed to believe.
Have people asked you though about that? Have they asked you, gosh, I think that my house is haunted, or
Yeah.
I think there might be a spirit here? Have they asked you that question?
Yes, I've gotten asked that a lot. And it turns out it's usually their deceased loved ones trying to get their attention. And whether that's through electricity, lights blinking on and off, sometimes that can feel spooky, and alarms going off at random times, doors opening and closing, it can feel ghostly. But whenever I've tapped in, I have found it's one of their deceased loved ones who is just trying to get their attention.
I think ghosts need a new term, Lisa. You should ask.
Can I just ask a Halloween question just really quick? Cemeteries, are they haunted with the spirits of deceased loved ones? What do you think?
Are they haunted? In my experience, your loved ones are always with you. You don't have to be at the cemetery to connect with a loved one. It is a beautiful representation of where you can go and pray to them and be with them as an intention. And it does help a lot of people, but they're everywhere all the time. So if you are at the cemetery, they're there too. But they can also be in your kitchen, and they travel all around. So haunted, again, is that word that has a negative connotation. And that's just not the energy that I work in.
Stevie, can you talk a little bit about some misconceptions with astrology that feel fearful?
I think it's more of what we were talking about earlier of, oh my God, if I have a lot of Scorpio, am I evil or am I bad because I have too much of this or too much of that? Or are you going to tell me I'm going to die or get sick? Or it's very similar to what Michelle was saying when it comes to like predictive astrology. And I don't know if this is like tarot, but everything comes in the form of a theme. So maybe it plays out this way or this way. I don't care who you are. We have our own free will to create our own future for ourselves. So I think it's really important to go into a session just like really open-minded and giving them the themes of what may or may not be them being invited into. I'm never ever going to tell you that something terrible is going to happen to you. I might tell you that you might have a really heavy year, or this is a time to like work on your karma or your wounding or face your shadow and kind of call you out in that way, but never is it going to be like that.
Can you see it in a chart though, Stevie? Can you actually see into that level of detail into somebody's future that, yes.
Stevie did that with me, and it was incredibly helpful, where she was like, you're walking into this part of a chapter, and here's how to ride the wave a little bit better. And it was massively helpful.
Yeah, sometimes their guides will give me like specifics, but for the most part, it's just energy waves, what they feel like.
And it can help validate, I think, certain times of your life. Several friends who've had readings with you, Stevie, and you've echoed what they were going through by letting them know this is this darker period for you. You are facing some of that shadow side, and that's going to last you through 2020 something. You know what I mean? And just knowing that there's a time frame and that there will be a shift in energy, that in itself is so helpful.
And I think too, it's really important to do the type of astrology where we look at how you feel right now and what happened to you prior, so that we can really validate your experience and how to work with it when it happens again. I really like that kind of astrology where we look back and we're like, okay, what, you have something really traumatic happen to you. What was going on there and what was the invitation? And then when that comes up again, because it's all a spiral cycle, how can we work with it to create more flow?
Yeah. Lizzi, what about good and bad energy? I feel like you'd be a good one to just talk about that for a minute. If someone comes to you where they may think there's bad energy on them, in them, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I would love for you to articulate what that actually is.
That to me feels like it's all in the eye of the beholder. Like, bad to who? Bad to what? Is it? It's something we have to learn. It's something we have to get through. I don't think any of us get through 100% of our human zip-up suit experience in good energy. And I don't think bad energy is necessarily a curse or something scary like that. I think this is where to look. Go pay attention. What are you believing?
Yeah. And I would say, what I also think is that there's energy that's not your own, that you've helped clear for others, but you can help also teach people how to clear it themselves, which we're going to talk about in a second. And then I would also say that some of the energy that may feel bad, it may just be stuck, right? Like they've maybe never addressed, as we've talked about already in this episode, something from their childhood, some trauma that they need to deal with. And maybe it's not even from their childhood. It could be somewhere more recent where they were going through a trauma. But you're able to help them decipher what it is. Like you are able to pinpoint it for them and then help it move which to them feel like, in quotes, bad.
Yeah.
And it's not really bad.
Right. It doesn't feel ideal because it feels like to me when I'm stuck or when I have something that needs to be cleared, I label it and judge it as I need to fix this in order to be better.
Yes.
But the reality is it's just my thing that I have to learn then. I want to be done. I want to find the finish line of, okay, now I'm going to be better forever. I think more of it is just about accepting, no, this is the piece I'm working on now. And in a year, it'll be something different.
But I think that gets to what I was trying to ask before is can you pick up energy that isn't yours? I remember walking through Grand Central Station every day, and sometimes I would get to the office and I'd feel exhausted and heavy. Is that because I'm picking up on other people's negative energy, or is that just because it's just a crazy place and my body is just feeling that?
I think of energy as like a scent. If I spray perfume in one part of the room, it's going to waft to another room. It's going to travel. It's not like it's contained because the door's closed or my skin, right? So I think of it more like that and less of, I do think of like the 80s Nickelodeon getting slimed, like they dumped the bucket of slime and I might get slimed, but again, it's still mine. So if it's showing up in my experience, it's mine to work on and deal with. I don't feel victim to, oh, she just slimed all over me. Then it's mine to learn how to let go of that.
Yeah.
Michelle, I feel like has something fun to say. I see you're smart.
No, I love your visuals. I'm just thinking myself drowning in slime. But I was going to mimic what you were saying, though, about what's uncomfortable for you, right? Like the perspective coming from you with energy. And when I do my readings, even though I'm nowhere near as gifted as Stevie with astrology charts, I always like to look at someone's chart beforehand because I want to see what their natural empowered ingredients are like and what feels good to them and what doesn't feel good to them, where their power places. So for me, when someone says something doesn't feel good right now, let's say Lizzi, knowing her, she wants to keep things moving, right? So if that's what's happening in her life right now, and she's this sucks, I can at least address and talk to you about this is not your natural power place. So it is something to deal with. But when you are in that natural power place, she's fire, at least in the sun sign, then that feels more natural and doesn't feel bad, quote unquote.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are more watery or more open naturally, and so they're more sensitive. Maybe they have a really strong Neptune placement, or everyone just has different flavors about them. And I think that plays a huge part of it too. But like Lizzi said, if we're attracting it and it's coming to us, then it's ours. So it's ours to face and look at.
Yes. So, what are ways that people can actually protect their energy? I know there's a go-to exercise that Lizzi gives, which can you share that as one way to protect your energy? But I feel like there's multiple ways that we can suggest to people.
So I visualize a little baby pinprick of light in the center of my chest, behind my sternum, in front of my spine. And then I imagine like a blowfish that it blows up, but as it blows up, it's pushing out anything that's not serving my highest good. And that's how I set the intention. Clear out anything that's not serving my highest good. And then I poof, blow the thing open and imagine that I'm in like a Glenda the Good Witch bubble. And then I just set the intention that outer layer is going to be held as like a force field, like a protective force, so that I can be compassionate and open and present, but not absorb and get the slime in. And if I'm really working with it, then I have the outside layer of the bubble scrubbed off.
I use it a lot.
I do it if I'm going into an airport or a concert or like a crowded space, I do it once I remember. Once I go in and I'm like, ew, that felt heavy. Poof, I blow it up and then I'm clean.
Yeah. And I would say even when you are about to talk to someone that could be a hard conversation or they are challenging in your life, do it. It always helps. And then remember at the end of the day I just think a really easy ritual. Again, Lizzi has her French press one that she could share. Or for me, I do an energetic shower and I'm making sure that I'm showering off any energy that is not mine or not serving me and having that drain down into the earth.
It's been helpful for me to do that when I'm brushing my teeth because I know I'm going to brush my teeth in the morning and at night. So I'm always doing it twice a day. And if you link it with when you're making coffee, because you make coffee every morning, it's an easier way to remember to do it.
Lisa, you do a really good meditation at the beginning of your readings.
I do. I open in a similar way where I open with a meditation that also protects me and my client when we are delving into energy with a rainbow bubble. And once that's open and we are really connected, and once the session is over, I make sure I do a closing. And the closing entails a thank you to the energies that showed up. And I make a real intention to close that energy and have them go with my client and not stay with me. So it's all about intention for me. And also gratitude in connecting with the spirits and thanking them, being in gratitude for their presence and letting them know that the time was valuable. And then the session's closed.
Are there any other rituals that you guys use to help protect your energy?
Well, I feel like when I do my sessions, I always do the opening like a prayer more than anything else, but it's really to open that channel. It's probably similar to what Lisa does, but it's more for setting that intention and getting grounded and then opening that channel so that it's really intentional that it stays here in this space. And then afterwards, just like Lisa said, I do my own version of closing out the channel, saying thank you, goodbye, and leaving this here. Because I do think I've found is before that really got messy. I feel like I would take on people's energy and I would just hold it. I'd be walking around with that. And until I think gave it more of that sacred space so that I had more control of turning it on and off than just having it be like loosey-goosey all the time.
It feels like portals. When you are in those specific sessions, they're portals. And so it's being, as you said, that is sacred. So it is opening it in a certain way and closing it. And to me, that speaks to the veil and having respect for that. Yeah. What about you, Stevie?
I really like physical things to help me. And I'm honestly, just truthfully, not very good at this, you guys. I'm not very good at well, I work with Lizzi all the time, literally. I'm like, help me like close this shit down because it's just too much. So I often will just visualize my heart chakra closing a little bit because I think even when you look at your human design, if you have an open, undefined heart or an open, undefined ego, you tend to ask these questions of, is that mine? And who am I? And it's something that I struggle with and end up using that to help me a lot, like that visualization. But I like crystals. I like black tourmaline. I like obsidian. I like onyx. I like to even put intentions into quartz and stick them in my pocket. I like the physical aspect of helping. And even just going outside with bare feet, because the scientifically going into the earth and letting her, like, it's just faster and it's more physical for me. It feels like I can actually feel it pooling out of my feet. So I like that kind of aspect of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You definitely introduced that into my life. I have black tourmaline all over my house and under my pillows in this room and other crystals. But I do find even I literally have crystals on my computer as we're taping this right now. I feel them. I have a candle burning that has a specific meaning and scent. So to your point, that physical, I think it's important. And I also think smudging can help too.
Just going to say that.
And you taught me that, Lisa. I think it's really important. The other day, Jeff was on a conference call and I could hear the voice coming out. I don't know the person that he was talking to, but it was bothersome. I don't know. There's something about it. I literally lit some Palo Santo and started smudging because I just felt like there was energy that was coming through that I didn't really want in our house. And I didn't know what else to do. And I probably could have just used my own mind and intention, but something physical felt good to do.
Yeah, I actually learned this, well, I was inspired by my session with Lizzi, and I don't know, it morphed into this and it made sense to me, but I think it really works. So I hold a cup of water on my table when I do a session that's in between me and the person that I'm reading. And I hold it there the whole session. And then when I'm doing my ritual for closing a session after the person leaves, I drink that entire cup of water because I've found that the cycle for me of waters holds memory, right? Water holds vibration. And that vibration between me and someone when I'm channeling someone is really intense. And so that's a replenishment for me, not just because I'm thirsty because I've been talking for 2 hours, but because that almost resets my system, I think, energetically and cleanses and then also replenishes what I've lost.
Wow.
That's really cool.
Did I tell you to do that?
In so many words.
Like
There
in
was
your-
in that session, I don't, not to get into that, but there was a part when I was down in that tomb and there was that cup of water. And there's certain parts of that session that were just have never left me, obviously, and seemed really important. And that one was one of them. And then when I started researching water and liquid, I don't know, I'm a researcher. So when I started doing that, the quantum physics of what they're finding with how water holds memory and vibration made sense to me because I think that there's a lot of vibration when we're channeling and with anybody, right? If we're thinking about sharing that space with anybody, and water captures that vibration. So whether that's good, bad energy or bad energy, but obviously what we're doing is supposed to be positive, good energy, right? I just think it's a natural ritual for me to do now.
Just to clarify, what Michelle's talking about is she did a past life quantum healing with Lizzi, and that it came through in that session. And we've talked about water many times on the podcast. It's a ritual that I do every morning because I talk to my water and then I drink it. That's one of the first things I do when I get up because I believe words have vibration and frequency. And so to your point, I think it's molecularly doing something to the water, which then I'm ingesting. It usually helps me have a really good day.
Well, funny, my daughter accidentally drank my glass of water one time after a session. She goes, "This tastes different." I'm like, "You weren't supposed to drink that."
That's so interesting.
So funny. And too, Lizzie, you've also said I've been the guilty one of not doing the soaking my feet after a session with you because I was like, ah.
Yes, that's huge.
And it is that regrounding and really letting your body process energetically and
The
spiritually.
foot soak is actually about pulling some of it's like when we do edits, we're like dusting up mud at the bottom of a pool. And so it's about pulling that out.
And using salt.
Yeah, Epsom salt water.
So all of those things are helpful in ways that you don't even realize because you don't understand the impact that your actual physical body is having as a result of these experiences.
And I think one of the things that I just want to point out to everybody listening or watching is that you all represent different modalities, and yet they all are really getting to that same magic. We've all worked together in the sense that what each modality can do for you together is help you validate where you are and where you're going. And that there is this way of connecting the dots by having these different experiences. And together, they can really help get you back in alignment, I would say, with your journey if you're feeling off. And it takes the fear out of a lot of things.
I think what Stevie and I do is extremely connected, right? Like we are tapping into the cycles of energy and then also how, like I said, the cosmic makeup of a person. And Stevie looks at it more from a higher view, holistic way. And I look at it from a deep dive into how that's being used or amplified in the present moment. So I think it's extremely similar and always mirrors each other. Even when we do the forecast, they mirror the same thing in a very different way.
That's right.
And Lisa and Lizzie, I think, are very similar in how they read and interpret not just energy, what is outside of our realm of seeing.
If somebody is seeking a specific question, if they don't know why they're here, or if they are lost in some way, each one of you have a different perspective of how to give them that insight, that when you play it all back, there will always be a common thread of information. I can validate that because I've done it with all of you. And while each one of you tend to hone in on something really specific, when you step back and you look at it at a high level, Robin always sits through these with me and she's like, they keep saying the same thing. There is that consistent message that each one of you can give to someone, but that it just gives it on a different level.
Yeah, I feel like they're more like layers.
Yeah, exactly.
You can hear something in a slightly different way. And it all, to me, each modality and each of you as practitioners of the modality, you're able to translate something for a seeker who may not be able to hear or see things, but because they're hearing it from each of you, that actually will end up changing their life. And so it just feels important to bring up as we're talking about this ability to experience the unseen.
And I think the underlying theme that we're all the same, or we're all one, we're all connected.
That's right. And I think if you're listening or watching, you may feel attracted to one thing over another at a specific time. And then you'll have that experience and want to try something else, again, helping you to make better sense of why you are where you are in your life. And that these do exist for you to utilize as a tool. So, how can we close things out for people at this time? Is there, Stevie, I know you talked about Samhain. We've done actually a whole podcast on that, so I'll have a link to that. But can you just remind people what that is and maybe tie that in with where things are right now?
Samhain is the halfway point between the equinox and the solstice, and technically it's on November 7th. That's when the sun is at 15 degrees of Scorpio. We celebrate it on Halloween on the 31st of October or the day after. The season of Scorpio, how I like to work with it from a very practical lens is I make an ancestors altar and I talk to them, I honor them. I put a cigarette on there. If they smoke cigarettes, I put some water. I put little pictures of them on there and I visit it every day. And actually, when I did a session with Lisa, my grandma came in and she said, "Thank you so much for that altar." So just honoring that, the in between, and also the ancestors that are helping us from the other side, they feel so much closer, even though, like you guys were saying, they're there all the time. But to really honor that connection and that we're doing work here and they're doing work there and we're working together, even though we're both not in the physical. That's really how I like to work with this season.
What about you, Michelle?
You want me to pull something?
Yeah.
All right. I just got this new deck and I love it. It's very wild. Spirit, please give me a message just for Halloween and October. What do people need to know? Okay. Got the Justice card, which is Libra season right now, and that's justice. But what I'm picking up on is I got Justice, Ace of Pentacles, and the Emperor. So I guess I'll just show it. Ace of Pentacles and the Emperor. That is actually really big energy, to be honest. So what I'm getting is this is a balancing of power. And the Ace of Pentacles right in the middle of that really talks to me like when we were talking about transformation, we're talking about Scorpio season. This is that rebirth. So this is looking at diving deep to recalibrate, to rebalance as a beautiful place and a beautiful space to be in control of your rebirth. To say, I'm going to look at my shadow. I'm going to look at my fears. I'm going to look at the dark, messy stuff that doesn't make sense. And I don't usually want to go there. But I'm going to look at that so that I feel empowered to have that rebirth in the direction that I want.
I love that. And I wonder if it's a foreshadowing for when we do the November forecast. We had Emperor at the end of the October forecast. For those who haven't heard it, take a listen.
Yeah, it feels powerful. We're not just here to experience the 3D, but to also engage with it and feel like there are things we also can control.
Feels very needed right now, especially with our whole world. So that's really good.
Literally just going to say that there's been a constant theme lately in all of my readings that has been pretty dominant lately about the message is to play right now and how important it is to counteract the universal energy, sort of the depression that we're all feeling universally because of the climate that we've been in for a while, and how forcing ourselves to play, listen to music, go to comedy shows, lift the vibration, play, indulge a little bit. And that seems to be the theme about switching the energy around so that you're feeling joy, raising our joy tolerance and allowing us to feel pleasure instead of all the darkness and the depression that seems to be on the planet right now. And every time that comes up, people get excited about it because it's almost as if there's permission to do that. And so there's just this theme of push yourself to play, say yes. You don't have to say no and isolate yourself.
That idea of permission is huge. Permission to feel joy amidst a lot of other energy that feels like it's around us. And that then bridging that with the power that you can control that for yourself.
Exactly.
A really big message.
Setting the intention, which is not always easy for us to do. We get out of bed and we just let the day take us. And setting the intention to lift our joy tolerance and play. That seems to be the message that has been coming out so strongly lately, and how important it is right now.
Lizzi, what about you?
The theme I've been getting lately in sessions is that find the gray area, that most of us are getting really stuck in. It's either this or the other extreme. And consistently, I'm getting find the middle ground. So looking for that.
That really resonates with me because nobody says that to us anymore. It's like being forced to make a decision.
Yes.
One side or the other. And I love that.
And a lot of life feels like a lose right now.
Yeah.
It sure does.
Yeah.
It's not. I like gray, and you have the ability and permission to have some laughs, experience joy.
Especially at this time of year. A little Halloween, a trick or treat.
And being a kid.
For the being a kid, Halloween is a good reminder of that, in addition to actually honoring your ancestors and so forth. It is also that a playful time.
The reason I love Halloween so much is because it's such a creative holiday, no holds bar. And I think creativity is fun. What Lisa said, like that's life force energy. So anything that is new, when we're creating, we're in that optimistic space. We're in that light energy because creation is always that.
Well said.
Thank you all so much for sharing your wisdom and your guidance and your energy. So needed, I know, in my own life. And I feel like you've definitely helped answer some questions for people during this time and given them some hope.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for hosting this.
Thank you.
Thank you. What an incredible conversation. A huge thank you to Lizzi, Stevie, Michelle, and Lisa for sharing their wisdom, light, and truth with all of us today. If something they said resonated with you, and we have a feeling it did, you can connect with each of them and keep the magic going. You can reach Lizzi at lizzicutler.com. That's LIZZICUTLER.com. You can reach Stevie at steviecalista.com. That's STEVIECALISTA.com. You can reach Lisa Nitzkin at lisanitzkinmedium.com, and that's spelled LISANITZKIN medium.com. And you can reach Michelle at mtnolan.com. And you can always find them and more of our favorite guides, practices, and inspiration through seekingcentercommunity.com. We love hearing from you. So if this conversation sparks something, drop us a note or tag us on Instagram at The Seeking Center. Until next time, keep seeking.